They'll pay it, they'll pay it.
Wow, that was kind of good. Thank you, everyone. We have opened the meeting. We have done the pledge, so I don't want to think we have not done it, but we have done the pledge. We've opened the meeting. The meeting is continuing. Next item on the agenda are the minutes. The minutes from last week's meeting from November 28th have been circulated. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Counselor Belcher, second by Counselor Fusillo. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstentions? The ayes have it. All right. General information and recommendations, we have none right now. There is a public hearing that was opened on last Tuesday, November 28th, and it was continued. So that public hearing is on the tax classification for fiscal '24. With us tonight, so we will reopen that or continue to open that public hearing. With us tonight, we have Nate Kramer from MFS, Municipal Financial Services. And Nate is going to give us a overview of his synopsis of where we are, and not necessarily a recommendation. We're not asking Nate for a recommendation. We're asking him to give us the information we requested. We have looked into, we do this every year, and we're usually looking at a commercial rate and a residential rate. Myself and I know the town manager have asked for more information, looking at different opportunities potentially, looking at, I wanted to know, for example, can we do an apartment rate versus a condo rate? Can we do a residential rate versus a non-owner occupied rate, or non-owner occupied versus occupied? So we did ask for more information this year, so I'm gonna give the floor to Nate to give us a little synopsis, or his synopsis of this. Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, I'm trying. It's not working.
I think she's gonna put it up there.
Will you adjust the microphone so that everyone can hear you on WCIT?
Hello, everyone. Is it on?
Well, it's for WCAT.
Okay, okay.
I have this here. It's right here. It's not sharing.
And then pick the project. With the slides, you gotta scroll down, yeah. Right there,
I knew that.
just double click it. There you go. That's all right.
If you hit view
Yeah,
at the top, you
start
can do full
slideshow.
screen.
Start it.
Begin slide, go up to slideshow. Move your thing over to the right. Steve, can you show her how to grab that and move that over so she can hit the buttons?
That's fine, we can leave it like that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just hit begin slideshow.
See, I didn't want to give the perception that I knew too much here.
There you go. And just hit the arrows.
Okay.
Right, next slide.
Okay, so the purpose of this presentation is whether or not to adopt a single or split tax rate, whether to retain an open space discount, whether to adopt a residential exemption, and whether to adopt a small commercial exemption. So next slide, please. There we go. So first is, I'm gonna talk about the full and fair cash value of the town and where it is this year compared to where it was last year. You can see the residential class, which includes single families, condos, apartment buildings, is going up approximately 6.5%. And then the commercial, industrial, and personal property is seeing about a 4% increase over last year. And overall for the town, the value increase is around 6.4%. Oh, you know what, that thing's on, it's on slideshow, it's just going without me. Okay. Unless you did
No,
that.
that's,
Oh, okay. So the next page, this data is from the local MLS, so that just kind of shows what the actual market is doing compared to what our assessed values are doing. I just like to do that as a common sense or a sanity check to make sure what the assessed values are comparable to what's actually going on in the market. you can see from 20 to 21, there was quite a jump. And then 21 to 22, and then even to 23, you can see it's a much slower increase in value. It's starting to plateau a little bit, primarily probably because of the high interest rates.
I think he's, sorry, I think he's a couple of slides ahead of us.
No, this is not important.
So again, I kind of already covered this, but why is the market increasing? In these values for fiscal '24 are based on calendar year 2022. In the beginning of 2022, 30-year fixed mortgage rates were around, they were under 3% in the beginning of the year. And as we went towards the end of the year, they were pushing 7%, if not over 7%. So it continued to go up through most of 21 and then started to plateau. But despite the high interest rates, there's still high demand because nobody wants to move. Nobody wants to trade their 3% interest rates for a 7% interest rate. So inventory just remains really low. So prices are, there's high demand, so prices are staying put. So this year, this is a comparison for the average single-family value from fiscal '23 to fiscal '24. Last year's rate was $10.70. The average value was $624,954, with an average bill of $6,687. This year, the rate's going down to $10.42, but the average value increased to $689,206,000. This is just single-family homes. This isn't the whole residential class. So the average single-family bill will be going up to $7,182. And these, the next page, these numbers include the whole commercial, industrial, personal property class. You'll see it's actually going down slightly. The commercial class has, not been doing very well. So it's not surprising to see that. And also with the rate dropping, with not a huge increase in value and also the rate dropping, the average commercial bill is actually going down. And this is just a breakdown of the levy. Last year's levy plus the 2.5% plus new growth. I should mention that I think due in large part to the hard work of Diane and Kathy, the new growth this year is more than double what it's been the past 5 years. It's over 200%. So new growth is property that's never been taxed before. So if it's a new addition, a new deck, a new building, and they worked really hard this year to, I don't think I've ever seen a 200% increase without some gigantic development. So the 24 levy limit plus the debt exclusion brings us to a maximum allowable levy of $38,056,480. The next slide is just a comparison of other communities nearby and where they are. The only other community nearby that also has a single rate is Nahant. And you can just see where those values are. Some of these, like Everett, they have a residential exemption, and Boston has a residential exemption, which significantly lowers their residential tax bills. But that works in large part due to their enormous number of apartments that they have. They carry that burden. Speaking of the residential exemption, this is something that the council asked to be added just as for discussion. The residential exemption allows a community to shift the tax burden within the residential class from owners of moderately valued residential properties to owners of vacation homes, higher valued homes, and residential properties not occupied by the owner, including apartments and vacant land. Adopting a residential exemption increases the residential tax rate. The amount of the levy paid by the residential class remains the same, so you're not collecting more money, you're just shifting the burden from the lower valued properties to the higher valued properties. In the next page is just some examples. This slide shows what the average single-family bill would be for people that don't qualify. And you can just see how it increases. I put 10, 20, and 30% in there. You can go up to 35%. They can't hear me at home.
It's okay, nothing you can do.
And then the next slide shows how those values will be affected for people that do qualify. So, you know, if you were to look at the 10% exemption, the average bill for a single-family house for someone that does qualify would be around $6,900 versus the person that doesn't, their bill would be around $7,600. There is a break-even point. The break-even, so once you get above a certain value of a property, you just pay the higher tax rate. You don't get any benefit from the residential exemption. It's designed to take the burden off the lower value properties and place it on the higher ones. So, once you get over $1,058,902 in Winthrop, based on fiscal '24 numbers, you don't get the benefit, you just pay a higher tax rate. So that, on the next slide, just shows how that would affect some higher valued properties. I did each percentage at 1.5 million and 3 million, at 10, 20, and 30%. And I'm noticing on this, this slide, this is not the most recent, all these numbers are the same, but I'm noticing a typo that has since been corrected, so this is, yeah.
It's only gonna be 38,000.
Off by a digit.
Yeah, it's 38. The next slide, it just shows a breakdown of how many houses, or how many single families would just pay the higher rate. So there's 16 houses that are, 16 single-family houses above that break-even point. There are 35 2 to 3 family houses and 40 4+. So the 111 and 112 class, there's 40 of those that are above. So these properties would be carrying the burden for every other residential parcel, if this were to be adopted. So about, 80, 90 properties would be carrying the burden.
91.
All the rest. And that concludes it. We would just, next one's the action, and Winthrop doesn't have a shift, so that would be, you do a single tax rate. Was a discount granted to open space? I believe you do have open space. Chapter 200, or class 200 properties. Is that the golf course or something?
I mean, it's a small percentage, that was less
Yeah,
than 10%.
yeah.
I'm sure it's that, so.
Whether or not the residential exemption is going to be adopted, and whether a small commercial exemption will be adopted. And I didn't even talk about the small commercial exemption because it's typically not worth it in a town with so little commercial influence. Any
Thank you,
questions?
Nick. I'll open up for questions in a minute. Can you just give us an idea, how many communities in the Commonwealth do a residential exemption?
17,
17.
including
And-
Concord just got it last week,
Okay.
so that includes Concord.
And most of those communities have a higher commercial base and a lot more apartment units.
It's not even commercial, so it's all shifted within the residential class, so.
Bigger apartment complex. like
For
we do
instance,
here.
in Malden has it, they have well over $1 billion worth just in the apartment class in value. So they carry a huge weight of it. So it really works well in towns like that, Boston, Everett, Chelsea. And then another hot area for towns that adopt it is Cape Cod, because there are so many second homeowners. So it gives a break to the people that live there year round.
And, you know, one of the reasons why we're looking at this, we were asking questions because there seems to be a shift over several years, not just Winthrop, but everywhere, that people are going to building apartments instead of condos, and people look and say, okay, a condo might, if it's a, whatever, $500,000 condo, it's bringing in $6,000 in real estate taxes, and if it's a apartment building, it might only be bringing in $1,500, because it's based on the thing, so, you know, there's no tax rate just for apartments, correct?
Correct.
So this is some sort of option if we get to the point, or if people feel we are now, but if we get to the point where we're exploding with apartment units or conversions or such. I want to open it up for questions on the council. Council Munson?
Thank you, Council President. When was this idea first introduced? Just to give us this idea of, you said 17 communities in the state of Massachusetts have adopted this, but how long has it been since it's been presented as an option?
I think 1979?
Oh,
I
so
think it
it's
says
been
it.
around for a while.
Yeah.
It's almost 50 years.
Yeah. Yep, 79.
Did Finance Committee actually come up with a recommendation on the exemption, not just the commercial aspect?
Yeah. Jim,
Yeah,
you
we'll
wanna-
be going
Yeah,
to,
we'll go into that a little later.
we'll, even later in this public comment, yes, but they're gonna come back with a recommendation. Or they have come back with a recommendation. If you want to know.
Oh, you want me to do it now? I'll do it now, yeah, for sure. So, you know, we met last night, we actually had a lengthy conversation about this. One of the big things was, you know, is it worth it for Winthrop? And there's something that came came again and again and again in our conversation was, well, it could be later on, but, you know, right now, it just doesn't seem like something that's, you know, valuable for this town, or it's gonna be, you know, impactful for this town. So, I mean, we'll make the motion later, but we did come to a consensus on, we didn't want to make any changes at this time. So later on in the meeting, we will make a motion for no changes, a recommendation for no changes.
Yeah, and just for, and I don't know if you'll have this number off the top of your head, but taxable properties in Winthrop, roughly, do you have that number?
The value?
No, the number.
Oh,
Number of tax bills that go out, is it
Do you know,
5,
Kathy?
655?
It's like around 5,000.
Yeah, it's 5,000 and change. And what this would do at this stage of the game is affect 90 individuals,
Correct.
90 owners, you know.
yep. I believe the number, so now I think there's about 5,000, maybe just over 5,000 residential properties, because it doesn't affect commercial properties at all. And of those 5,000, I just took a stab and figured maybe 60% of the people would qualify. So it brought it down to around 3,300. So that would qualify. So those 91 properties would be carrying those 3,500 properties.
I'm also, it's a public forum, so we're gonna open it up to the public also, if you have any questions at all on a tax classification rate. And we will come back to the council. Vice President Ruggiero.
Thank you. I think just one thing that we talked about last night, that I don't want to steal Council Fuso's thunder in his committee report, but one thing that kind of popped up to us was on slide 9, where we're listing the communities, and there's Winthrop, Revere, Boston, Everett, Lynn, Saugus, Nahant. Nahant is the only other municipality on this list with the flat tax rate. You know, Winthrop doesn't have the same taxable makeup that Revere does, Boston does, Everett does, Lynn does. You know, there's no casino, no Amazon, no, you know, mall. There's, yeah, Route 1, right. So, you know, just I think it kind of makes sense, you know, bedroom community to bedroom community, and this is something the town's done for a while, but I just wanted to point that out. And thank you for kind of providing that to us on the slide. Makes our job a little bit easier. Thanks.
Winthrop has one of the lowest commercial tax bases in the state, in the Commonwealth, right? There's roughly 93.45% of Winthrop is residential, which has a lot of benefits and it has some negatives, right? Because the residents are carrying the burden for the whole town instead of looking at communities with a lot of commercial and industrial and stuff, and they could have those properties carry a lot of the burden. We don't have that. Anyone else on the council?
There was just
Councilor
one,
Munson.
there was just one phrase you said that I just didn't register, and it's because it was on page 12, you said it, and you said, Only houses or residences valued over $1,058,902 would receive the benefit.
Nope.
No.
So the other way around.
The other- yeah.
So
Would-
properties valued at more than that just pay the higher tax rate. They don't receive any of the benefit.
The benefit being less taxes for their
Yes.
home.
Yeah, so
All right,
that.
that's
so-
what I didn't
yeah.
understand when you said it quickly.
So when you
Okay.
adopt it, the interest rate, or the tax rate goes up. But those folks that are, whose homes are valued, or their residential properties are valued less than that number, and they're eligible, can get that residential exemption, that discount. But if you're above that, you just pay the higher tax rate.
I understand now. It just seems like you're staying within the 2.5% that we are mitigated by law to stay within, but you're shifting some of the burden over to some of the more affluent
Exactly.
and less utilized properties. And did you have a recommendation separately from the FinCom or no?
I won't make a recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
Their
But-
job is to give us all the data and our
Right.
job is
Yeah.
to make-
And I had another thought that just went away, but.
Thank you.
Former council president Gill.
I presently on the Board of Assessors, we did discuss this briefly, and we believe that the single tax rate is the way to go. We've said that for several years, and we still would like to see the single tax rate stay in place, for all the various reasons. I won't go into detail.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, thank you, Nate. We will close this public hearing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment. Yes, please state your name and precinct. No, you just stand. Oh, you can sit.
Alright. I'm a little nervous.
Don't be nervous.
Alright, hello, I'm Nellie, Nellie Kurz, Precinct 5. I felt compelled to speak tonight, by accusations of anti-Semitism. I'm Jewish, I'm a member of Temple Tifereth, with these fine people here. Here in Winthrop, Temple Tifereth is. So I just wanted to, this is some tough stuff, okay? Anti-Semitism has affected my life in countless ways. My grandparents are Holocaust survivors, and what they went through is nothing like the books and movies that you see everywhere, and it has no modern equivalent. My family is still reeling from this trauma and from this loss. Additionally, my uncle, Cy, is a survivor of the Tree of Life shooting in Pittsburgh. He was pulling in late while the shooter was active inside and his friends were being killed. This is very real, violent anti-Semitism. This is real. Accusations of anti-Semitism against our council is not. Right? These are unfounded accusations, and in a way, it cheapens the very real experience that me and my family have had. As a Jewish person, and as an American, and as a resident of Winthrop, I am represented by the American flag that flies every day in this town. This is my homeland, and the Jewish community right here in Winthrop is so welcoming and kind. And I know they might disagree with me about this one, but I don't think we need to fly the Israeli flag here, because look at our country's beautiful flag. And if anyone feels like they need to do more to support the Jewish community here in Winthrop, I mean, like, look how cool we are. There's a Hanukkah party this Sunday, honoring Sandy and Vinnie Pellegrino at Temple Tifereth. And on the night of the 12th of December, there's a public menorah lighting, at 6 p.m. at the Crest Ave Playground. It'd be really great. If an ancestor of yours was Jewish, you could enroll your kid in Hebrew school. I know that we do a really nice job. Or you can make a donation to Temple Tifereth. I'm asking the council, please do not raise the flag of a distant nation state. Winthrop isn't the UN. We didn't raise one for the Ukraine. And I want everyone to feel as welcome in Winthrop as I have. If anyone has any questions, feel free to speak to me one-on-one. I'm open to talk to literally anyone. So thank you so much for listening to me and for hearing about my family story.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You did a great job, and you are very cool, so thank you. Next, please, public comments. Yes,
I need to read off my phone because I'm not gonna remember this.
just name and precinct.
Oh, Annie Mahoney, Precinct 2.
Thanks.
I vehemently oppose the flying of the Israeli flag in our town. I also want to start by saying being opposed to the Israeli state is not anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism is not the same as anti-Semitism. That's a completely diluted and ahistorical take. On the contrary, to equate the maniacal, bloodthirsty Israeli government with Judaism is what's anti-Semitic. As we know, this ethnic cleansing and genocide did not begin on October 7th. It began 75 years ago since the Nakba, or catastrophe, well before that, but when roughly 750,000 Palestinians, which was about 2/3 of Palestine's Arab population at the time, were displaced and 15,000 Palestinians indiscriminately slaughtered. To fly the Israeli flag is to condone and support the genocide and ethnic cleansing of not only the Palestinian people, but people living under brutal occupation everywhere in the world, including the Congo and Ethiopia and Sudan. I saw that these flags are going to be taken on like a case-by-case basis, so I think that it behooves us all to do our own research on learning what settler colonialism is, because I went here, I grew up here, public schools here, never heard of it before going to college, like that concept. So we all need to do our own research to take the principled approach to these case-by-case proposals. The research we do needs to be done outside of MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, because all of these mainstream media sources in the Western media have a stake in supporting this erroneous narrative that Israel has a right to commit genocide and call it defense. You can't claim defense when you're the occupying force there. That's all I have to say. Free Palestine and end the occupation.
Any other public comments?
Karina
Yes.
Campobasso, Precinct 3. I hope you all got my email where I set out the reasons why I didn't think we should be flying the flag of any nation other than the United States. I just want to reiterate, I mean, coming after these two very heartfelt statements, I don't really have much to add, but I think you might, I know that you flew the Italian flag a few months ago, and of course no one could foresee anything, but I think in retrospect that was a mistake. I don't think we should be flying any political flag, the national flag or the flag of any subdivision other than the United States, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the flag of Winthrop. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and one other thing, I hope we can find another way, I said this in my email, to honor all people who are suffering now. I had suggested the peace flag, maybe someone would make a proclamation regarding that. That would show our support for our Jewish community and our Palestinian community and any oppressed people.
Thank you. Yes,
I'd just like to start
Just
off by saying that.
name and
Nellie's,
precinct, please.
Precinct 6, John DeRoss.
Thank you.
I'd like to start off by saying Nellie's talk was fantastic. And I really don't think I have anything more to say except that council should be doing everything possible to ease the tensions that have been created by the war that is currently taking place, rather than aggravating them. So the kinds of things that Nellie was talking about, the lighting of the menorah, and the various other things that are taking place, the recent interfaith services at the Temple Tifereth, those were great. I'd like to see more institutions doing things like that, bringing people together. I think the proposal to wave the flag on the town the Israeli flag on the town pole, I don't think that serves to ease tensions. On the contrary, I think it serves to aggravate them, and I don't think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Yes, Jack.
Thank you, Jim. I just want to agree with.
Jack Dowd, precinct.
Jack, that's me.
Just trying to,
I don't know this gentleman's name, though.
you done?
He didn't mention his name.
Yes, he did.
No, he
I don't think he did.
Oh, he did it?
did his precinct, but not his name.
I thought he did.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Jack.
I'm usually right.
Well, you're sometimes right.
I just want to concur with the general consensus in this town, especially in this meeting, that that flagpole should be taken down. There should be no more discussion about any type of flag other than the American flag and the POW flag. I've talked to a lot of people about this situation that we're in. And in a lot of opinions, we're just causing more trouble by getting into the policy that is in place now of how you go about raising a flag. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone else? Yes, Marcy.
Marcy Hamilton, precinct 2. Thank you. Where do you stand? I thank everybody for showing up and everybody for coming together as a community to voice their opinions, because that's what we are as a community. I think that there should be a hate has no home here kind of sentiment in our hearts. And by having actions like conversations, hi Annie, I was your preschool teacher. Hi. I think by having these conversations, getting together, we can ease the fears and the tensions, because ultimately we cannot go abroad and have these conversations. So we must have them in our homes, we must have them in our schools, in our religious spaces, and over coffee. And I think that's a good place to start. And I think if we all work together, we could create a community that's welcoming to all, and that listens to other people, and has compassion and kindness and courage to move forward. And I just on a side note, I was thinking of this the other day. I remember walking into Mr. Borman's office, which I was very chatty back then as well. And he had every flag of every nation, or of every child in his school along his desk. And when you come into his office as a child from a different country and a different religion, or a different country, because that's what we're talking about, it was welcoming. And I think that's something that an event like Anita Preble, I think, is, I don't know the procedures, but there's a conversation coming up about that we can broaden our conversations and broaden our experience in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy.
And I really love you.
Anyone on Zoom? Yes. On Zoom?
On Zoom, yep. Todd Sacco. Can you unmute Todd, please?
I certainly can. So shockingly, I agree with most everybody in there that we should not be flying anything but American, Massachusetts, and the town Winthrop flag. I do not believe we should fly a world peace flag. I actually don't believe we should fly, in general terms, I don't believe we should fly the Israeli flag. However, the 9 wise ones voted unanimously for this current flag policy. Therefore, if you vote down the Israeli flag tonight, you will be exposing your biases and your hypocrisy, because you voted unanimously for the other 4 proclamations, except for one, which had Joe Aiello bow out on the Italian flag. This policy was a mess. I told Mr. Ruggiero this during the few policy meetings I attended. I told you this was going to happen, and here we are. You would do yourselves wisely to make a motion right now to repeal that flag policy, so you do not waste any more of the town's time with this absolute nonsense. You have much work to do, and us sitting here listening to this foolishness, quite frankly, is not moving the town forward. Thank you.
Any other Zoom comments?
No.
Any other comments? Somebody wants to be heard again?
I don't think so, because I think that's the whole procedure thing, I don't want to respond.
All right, we will close public comment. Correspondence, Denise?
I did read from John Trentaglia. He commented about the flag policy. John Vitagliano, Scott Mahoney Wright, and Karina Campobiaso also commented about the flag policy, and John and Scott about the executive sessions.
Diane Van too.
And Diane.
Oh, Diana Beans, I'm
It's
sorry.
probably been five.
Diana
right.
Beans too, I apologize, yep. I didn't get that.
Counselor Fusillo?
I had one resident that messaged me about water rates that I referred over to you today. That was about it.
All right. Committee reports, finance. Counselor Fusillo?
Yes, so finance, like I said, we met last night, we discussed this presentation, and if we were gonna make any changes to, our tax policies, whether or not we were gonna do a split tax rate, residential exceptions. And like we talked about, and like Councilor Ruggiero talked about, we don't have, that commercial base, we don't have that, we don't have a lot of that residential base that a lot of those other towns have. And seeing that, the only other town that does not have a split tax rate is the one that is most similar to us on this list. At this time, it does not make sense for us to make any changes. So that's why we put, later on, we're gonna put forth a motion to, recommendation for a motion to make no changes.
Thank you. School department report. One of the good things about having a meeting 1 week after the other is there aren't a lot of meetings in between, so there is no school committee report this evening. We have not met. We will be meeting next Monday night. Town managers report.
Thank you. Similarly, not too much more than last week. We just want to remind everybody, there will be in this room next Tuesday, December 12th at 6 o'clock for the Comcast cable required public hearing that we'll be having. Our attorney that's been negotiating the contract and representatives from Comcast will be here, and then certainly the public can come and hear what's going on with the contract and next steps, and ask any questions that they might have. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that. And also, there's been some questions and comments regarding the MBTA zoning. Obviously, we have to have a plan in place by December of 2024, or about a year from now. First step was hiring the consultant. We've made some good progress on it, and once we get the new council in place, we plan just in January to come in and update the council where we stand. And then also, we were awarded a grant for another, I think, $45,000 or plus or minus a few dollars, for the next step to hire another consultant to bring us to the finish line to, do the next required work we have to do and, get ready to bring something forward for the council to consider. So, we're making good progress on that. I've had a few councilors reach out to me about it, so I wanted to bring that up. And then, once the new council, the plan was in January, when we get the new council set, to come in and give an update exactly where we are, so everybody's on the same page.
Thank you. Any questions? Council Munson.
Can you give us an update on where we're at with the Airbnb policy ordinance?
We've worked with, having a draft ready to go, but it's gotta get, brought forward to the council rules and ordinance. We haven't done that yet, but we plan on bringing it forward shortly.
Okay.
And then, have that probably for the start in the new year, to get ready for that.
Councilor Aiello.
Tony, just a couple of first scheduling questions. At the Fall Forum, you had indicated that this documentation of capital liabilities, roads, school buildings, et cetera, that your current estimate you thought was heading to around $200 million of capital liabilities total for the town over the next 15 years or so.
Yeah.
When do we expect those reports in and sort of a detailed walkthrough of that? I had thought it was by the end of the calendar year, but.
Actually, we got an update on the water one, the water infrastructure. We should have that by the end of the week. And then I've got the draft version of the other one. I'm just reviewing it, and I'll get that out for the facilities needs assessment, the school buildings, town buildings, all the infrastructure. I've got that in, I'm just reviewing it, and then I'll get that out to the council shortly. So we will have it before the end of the year.
What do we have, one more meeting?
Yes.
I mean, would it make sense to pick maybe the second meeting in January to spend a good deal of time with the newly seated council to sort of walk them through what the studies attempted to do and what the results are, and
That makes sense,
So
because then we got the
how to think
capital
about that.
committee too, we gotta start meeting with, and
Yeah, you
Like,
can-
like we did last year in January, February.
Yeah, we can stop that process,
Yeah.
but I think the full committee, at least, a broad
Yep.
overview, and then.
Yep,
can
and I'm
send
gonna
it to
reach out to, well, it used to be School Do now, Brightly, to see if they can come in and, we paid them a lot of money to do the work, I wanted them to come in and do a presentation as well with the facilities needs assessment.
That'd be great, so if we could
Yeah.
do the second week in January, that would be, I think, helpful.
We'll work with the council president on that for sure.
And then, I think the council president announced, we all got a letter about the $2.2 million of free cash.
Yes.
I think a broader discussion about where that money goes and how it gets programmed and all that stuff, again, happening in January would be extraordinarily helpful.
Yep.
Particularly get the new council members understanding this mechanism
Yep.
and how to make sure that the taxpayer money gets used appropriately. The third one is, there was an email from Julia Wallace I saw today, that the CIP process is open at Mass Highway again. We have been trying to figure out how to get, Main Street from the Belle Isle Bridge over to McGee's Corner into the next cycle. You were trying to get a consultant to come up with alternatives analysis, 25% design, particularly for that first stretch
Yep.
from the bridge through Pleasant Street. Have we brought a consultant on board for that yet? And is there a schedule?
We've
for
asked
that?
CHA to put together an application, for a lesser amount. We're still working on the design money. We know it's gonna be around, 400 or 500,000, but we're trying to fine tune that number a little bit.
That would do the alternatives analysis up to 25%?
Up to 25%,
Okay.
which, and to be clear, a lot of the bulk of the work is in the beginning, right? Because you're doing a lot of the
Yeah,
zoning and
yeah.
survey work and all that. So that number will probably, based on, past practice, I don't want to lock into it, but, figure 700,000-800,000 total.
It's a big,
Yeah,
complicated project.
right,
I'm not-
exactly.
I'm not gonna hold you to the number. More importantly is, it would be helpful to get when we did Revere Street,
Yep.
that struggled with being, all the public processes happening during COVID, and it was really not, COVID wasn't conducive to people coming up and looking at sketches and all that stuff.
Yep.
So it would be helpful to get a real clear schedule about when preliminary alternatives would be developed and when people would be able to comment on them, and so we could progress it, so we get the right outcome, particularly for that stretch. That's a complicated entrance to the city, to the town, and with a lot of pedestrian crossing issues and left turn
without a doubt.
issues in
Yep.
both directions, it'd be great.
But we've asked CHA to get us an application so we can get on the tip list. I mean, that's the first step, right? We want to get on there and get in their queue. Not that we're going to get approved, but at least get so they can start reviewing it. And then we'll, that's what we're working on, because that was what we were trying to get accomplished.
Okay, so we're gonna try, so I just wanna make sure I'm clear. You wanna try to get state money for the 25%?
No.
Design?
You want, we still gotta come up with the 25%, but we
Yeah.
wanna get them to approve the project, say, we
Okay.
like this project, we wanna consider it, we're not sure where you're gonna be in the queue of the pipeline, but, they've got a review process that they go through to see if it's even something they wanna consider.
Okay.
We'll still be on the hook for all the design money, as we always are,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Okay, so that will go in time for the deadline.
Yeah, well, they have it open it up every 2 or 3 months, I'm not sure we'll make the review that Julie was referring to,
Yeah.
because they'll have to, there's a process they have to do internally first,
Okay.
and then we'll get on the next meeting, so, yeah, but we're working
Okay.
on that. to
Yeah,
move
I
it
think
forward.
the faster the better, because I know there's some extra money still from
Yeah,
the president's infrastructure bill floating around,
Right.
and it'd be a good chance to sort of jump in. And then two, just clarifications. I did get a couple of pieces of correspondence. There was a youth soccer program that was supposed to start last Saturday in the gym, and the organizers sent out a note at the last minute that it was filming being done in the gym, and that was suspended. The soccer program's been suspended until the filming's done. Any clarification on what happened? and-
Incorrect email. That was that soccer program never negotiated a contract with Park and Rec, and that was a false email, and we've told the company that they should not have sent that out, so.
Okay, and,
And the person that sent the email complaining about it, I've already talked to that person and let them know the same thing.
okay, and so the soccer program acknowledges that they,
I don't know if they put it out yet, but they've been,
okay,
they're, again, a misinterpretation, there's a process and a program to go through, they sort of jumped, in my opinion, they jumped the gun and they, didn't do it, but, there's availability in the gym, they just need to go through the proper steps and sign the agreement like everybody else does, and,
okay.
and go from there.
And then the last is on park equipment. There's a number of parks that have pieces of the playground that are either broken off or missing or whatever. Do we keep an inventory of that that's available for the public to see, as well as when they're gonna get replaced or repaired?
We don't have an official inventory, no. I mean, it's done by our Park and Rec director right now, which is part of the problem. We need a cemetery and parks department, we've talked about in the past. But until we get there, we know right now there's one slide tube that needs to be replaced, that's been ordered and isn't in yet. But other than that, we're just gonna, they're doing an assessment. So a lot of the swings have been replaced, so again, that individual that called me, I'm gonna get back to him with that
But
information.
this should also be part of that capital asset program
It
that
is,
we
yeah.
talked about. So it would be good if, because a lot of parents don't know which park to go with, where all the equipment is in a state of good repair. It would be good to have, it's not that complicated, right? We've got 5, 6 playgrounds to say, okay, here's what's missing here, here, here. Here's what it's gonna take in terms of dollars. Here's when we expect to put the procurement out. Here's when we expect it to be fixed, right?
Be all part of the whole capital plan, sure.
Shouldn't be that complicated, and it would be great if we could see that at the end of January as well.
See what we can put together, sure.
Okay? So that would be great. I will count on seeing that in January as well.
Maybe, I'm gonna do the work, I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna talk to the individual that called me, and I've got some more issues to work out, but I'll let you know where we're at
Okay,
with that.
but this is, I mean, the individual that called you, this should be one of your department heads is responsible for developing that
One of
database.
many things, absolutely, yeah. But
Right.
we'll get it together, sure.
And getting it done.
I'm not gonna
Right.
discuss it at department heads publicly, so.
No, I'm
just letting
not
you know,
looking
yeah.
to name, I just wanna make sure you say an individual. I wanna make sure it's someone within the town,
Oh,
someone
yeah, I'm gonna-
within your span of control.
Yeah. I'll
Okay,
let you know.
it's not some.
This does go
formal
back to
person.
how we said that we need a parks department, and
Without a
it
doubt.
just, we can't be strapping everybody so thin. And
Yeah,
just a
everybody's spread
clarification
thin, I agree,
on the free cash, that we don't just have $2 million that we could throw around. We have specific financial policies that 70% of that money is accounted for, and it's gonna go into different stabilization funds. But we wanna discuss where we're, where we're going next with that.
Absolutely.
But I just don't want the public thinking we just have an extra $2 million to. Vice President Ruggiero.
Thank you, Council President. Tony, can you just give us a construction update? I know this is something that, the Revere Street's paved. I think they're kind of doing some odds and ends, and then, or are they
Most of it's-
completely done?
Most of it's wrapped up now. They had,
Okay.
last week, they worked on raising the, the manhole
The
covers
manhole
and whatnot up to
yeah.
grade, so you didn't have bumps all winter long. And then they'll be raised back up when we go for the finish coat in the springtime. There's still another 2.5 inches
Yep.
to be put down for the finish coat, so.
Okay.
And then obviously anything that, maybe settles or sinks, those repairs will be made before they do the
Before they
final
finish.
top coat in the spring. But yeah, pretty much everything's wrapped up now, and then we look forward to the tip project in the spring and, getting the word out and getting a schedule and, working with contractors.
Okay, so there, I guess that leads me to my follow-up question. There are no, there's nothing planned between now and the TIP project? So folks see construction, it's a water main, it's
Exactly,
something that
yes.
we're responding to,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
issues with water mains or breaks and things like that, yeah.
Got it. Just want to make sure that, that we talk about these things on a regular
Oh, well,
basis,
yeah,
because,
I mean, it could be anything,
know.
it could be a gas pipe, a stormwater.
Yeah, exactly.
Things that pop up now are emergencies and we're dealing with them, so.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then the TIP project is starting at McGee's Corner, right? Is that where the,
I believe so, yeah, we'll get the
okay,
schedule.
on the
I don't
other
wanna
end,
lock in,
not
but
on
that
the
was-
Revere
I
Street
believe
end?
Steve said that in the past.
Got it,
but
yeah, okay, all right, I don't
I don't
wanna,
wanna quote him because he's.
no,
not here.
exactly. All right, just wanted to, check in on that, so,
Sure.
thanks.
All right, thank you. CDICR?
They meet next on December 13th, so we'll have an update at the next meeting.
Old business, tax classification. Counselor Fusillo?
Yes, so like I said twice now, we met yesterday and we, after a lengthy discussion, long story short, said we recommend no changes to our policies.
All right, so there is a motion that the town council maintains a uniform tax rate for all classes of properties for fiscal '24. Authorize town manager Tony Marino to sign and electronically submit the LA5 to the Department of Revenue, and the town council approves electronic signature to this document on behalf of the town council. That's the motion coming out of finance,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So there's a motion coming out of finance for the positive recommendation, or I shouldn't say that. There's a motion coming out of finance. There a second on the motion? Second by Counselor Belcher. Any discussion, any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Counsel Honan?
Yes.
Counsel Fusillo?
Yes.
Counsel Munson?
Yes.
Counsel Belcher?
Yes.
Counsel DeMarco?
Yes.
Counsel Flockhart?
Yes.
Counsel Aiello?
Yes.
Vice President Ruggiero?
Yes.
President Lettieri?
Yes.
Thank you.
New business, flag proclamation, Counselor DeMarco.
Thank you, Council President. Proclamation. This is a proclamation of support and love for Winthrop's Jewish community. Whereas Winthrop has historically had a rich Jewish heritage and community. Whereas on October 7th, 2023, 1,300-plus Jews were killed in a terrorist attack, the largest mass murder of Jews since the Holocaust. Whereas 32 of the Jews killed were American citizens. Whereas the town of Winthrop recognizes the importance of supporting the Jewish community and acknowledges that we must continue to work towards full equality for all members of the community. Whereas the town of Winthrop understands the impact of hate and discrimination all too well, as evidenced by the hate crime that occurred in our community on June 26, 2021. Whereas the town of Winthrop understands the fear and sadness gripping the Jewish community the last 2 months. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Winthrop Town Council extends its support and love for our Jewish community and encourages all residents to join in the condemnation of all forms of hate and anti-Semitism. We urge our community to come together to support and uplift the Jewish community and to work together to create a more just, equitable, and inclusive society for all. At that point, I was going to make a motion to raise the Israeli flag for 3 days. It seems that, based on community input and my fellow councilors, we don't have the support to do that. So I'm just going to leave it at that proclamation and let the Jewish community know that we stand behind you and we are with you. You are not alone. We are with you 100%. And I would like a roll call vote to get behind that proclamation. That's inaudible, I know.
So you're not making a flag proclamation, is that what you're saying?
Correct. It's not a flag proclamation. It's a proclamation of love and support for the Jewish community that I would like all the councilors to agree to.
Okay, so there's a proclamation been made by Councilor DeMarco. It is the second by Councilor Aiello. Is there discussion on this proclamation? Councilor Flockhart?
I don't deny that there was a horrible event on October 7th, and that it was comparable to what we went through on 9/11. And I certainly support, the terror that these people are feeling. However, I think this proclamation does not recognize that the pain and suffering that the Palestinian people are going through now. And I think it's a little one-sided, so I would not support it.
Councilor Honan?
I would like to second Councillor Flockhart's sentiments regarding Palestinian victims as well, but I do have a statement I'd like to read. So instead of, this is something I proposed when I considered Councillor DeMarco's proposal to raise a flag. So if you'll excuse me for acknowledging his change. So instead of raising the flag of another nation on our municipal grounds during a time of extreme conflict, I would like to recommend that we as a community do something more specific and meaningful for Winthrop's Jewish community. Members of our community who watched or attended last Tuesday's town council meeting have made suggestions as to a better way to honor the members of our Jewish community than raising the flag of Israel and to support world peace at this difficult time. One suggestion from a resident who attended the last meeting, which I believe is an excellent suggestion and which I wholeheartedly support, is the installation of a permanent historical display of the history of Winthrop's Jewish community. For more than a century, we have had a significant Jewish population here. Winthrop's Jewish community has been an integral part of and contributed significantly to our town. We should, in my opinion, rely not so much on flag raisings in these situations to make statements of support, but rather, as Mr. Munson noted, to share in more meaningful communion together in person to share our cultures, our lived experiences, and to acknowledge one another. And I want to thank Marcy Hamilton specifically for her statements as well. Our flag policy, as promulgated last year, was intended to unite community members and to provide residents with a sense of belonging, to celebrate heritage as a way to unify the people of this town and to acknowledge and celebrate the wide array of cultures here. We should, at all times, avoid gestures that have the potential to divide. It is important to acknowledge that situations such as this, when the demand to raise a particular flag could be deemed as taking sides in an international conflict, that policies and regulations oftentimes need amendment to correct for unforeseen circumstances. No policy is perfect, nor is any public body. We learn from experience and we make corrections as needed. And with that being said, I believe in our flag policy, but agree that it does need amendment. I do hope to see you all at Winthrop's Hanukkah celebration for the lighting of the menorah at Crest Ave Park on Tuesday, December 12th at 6 p.m. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Councilor Honan. Councilor Fusillo.
Just want to real quick say, obviously, the council supports everybody in this community, equally. I think, it's important to make sure all residents feel safe and welcome in our community. With that being said, I'd like to also make it known that I am choosing to abstain from this vote, and I know that's not the flag anymore, but all further votes relating to flags, regardless of the issue. As many people have said today, and as I am on the same page with, there's currently 3 flags up there, the Massachusetts flag, the prisoner of war flag, and the United States flag, and that's what I believe should be there. So I am abstaining for any further votes regarding flags. Thank you.
Councilor Munson.
Council President, would you let the audience know that that if they're having a reaction to some of the things that we're saying now, that the best time to speak is at the end? That's just protocol. So that's just normal, but
At the end of.
a public comment.
Correct.
Right. Just wanted to just make sure you know that it's not a dialogue just right now, unfortunately. But if it's my turn to speak, I mean, I applaud Rob's effort to support the Jewish community, and I want to support the Jewish community too. And but to both Barbara and Tracy's point, it does feel one-sided. But I mean, I think that some of the real actions that you can do, not just a 3x5 flag flapping in the wind, but to actually do real things like community events is important. I think the public menorah lighting is a wonderful activity. I hope there's a huge crowd, and I'm excited for that. I also think that the Jewish Winthrop Historical Project is another great project that I'm excited to be a part of. I talked to the librarians, Greg, Mary Lou Osborne, Joanne Hillman. They're all on board as much as they can offer their, the research and their, time, they will do so. We also have Robert Kaiser. Lisa has also offered to help out with her archives. And I look forward to seeing something beautiful and something historical that you can actually learn from, not just, a big flag flapping in the wind. Something that you can taste, feel, talk, interact, have a connection with somebody. That's breaking ground from hate and turning it into friendship and connection. So ultimately, what I want to say is that we have to decide, if we fast forward our flag policy a few years, or even just 6 months from now, it's either going to be one of two things. Either we're going to turn into like a Revere, which is celebrating every ethnicity and celebrating what makes the people of Revere, or we're going to turn into a no flags other than the 3 primaries. And to me, I think that in a really challenging time during what is basically international crises after crises and trying to figure out what's going on in America, I think it's important to celebrate what it is that makes us us. And whether that's being, a Jewish American heritage, that doesn't have to be an Israeli flag. That doesn't have to be a sovereign nation. I have here, I printed out, all these different possible flags for the different heritages, the Jewish American heritage flag. These are available, the Asian Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month. I think that Irish, it would be great. We should come up with like a calendar that where we can have events through the CDICR. That's just where I would go with it. If everyone felt as though, let's stay out of the politics, keep it simple, and focus on taxes, developments, and how we can make this town a better place, I'm fine with that, but I feel as though celebrating our identity is part of making this town better. It's about being a community and feeling included. And so, yes, the policy needs to be tweaked. Section C, as Scott Mahoney Wright, seems to be ambiguous. It needs to be clarified. Well, I would actually be willing to go as far as, once this motion has been rejected or accepted, we can go ahead and make a motion to revise the current flag policy to make it cleaner. But my opinion is, it's either gonna be one of two things if we fast forward. It's either gonna be a very clean cut, pretty much 3 flags, which it is pretty much all around the country, or we can start to celebrate different ethnicities and identities inclusively.
Sorry.
No.
I-
I'm sorry.
Just one thing, please.
Yeah, we're gonna go in order, we're gonna get to
I know,
you.
but this has to do with the last couple comments. I took the flag out of the equation. And Councilor Honan, to her credit, put a lot of thought into this, and Councilor Honan, I do appreciate your thoughts, but the last 3 people who are talking about the flag, all I want to know is that the Winthrop Town Council extends its support and love for the Jewish community and encourages all residents to join in the condemnation of all forms of hate and anti-Semitism. That's what I'm looking for approval on. Right now, I don't give a damn about a flag, okay? I want to give the Jewish community the love and support that they need, because as an extended member of that family, we are hurting. And I want them to know that they are not alone and that we have their back. That's all I want to vote on.
And just for the council, before this gets crazy, I think we all understand that and we all appreciate that. However, this was this was changed on the fly, and people, try to prepare for meetings and have comments ready, so they have a right, because usually a comment on a motion is only about the motion or the proclamation. In this situation, the proclamation completely changed from what was written, so I'm given a little latitude for people to speak. It's a very touchy subject right now, and we're trying to be cognizant of everyone right now, and that's what we're here to do. But let me continue with, Councilor Belcher, did you have any public comment?
Yes,
On
just
this? Not public comment, but comment
Yeah.
on proclamation.
briefly, thank you. I wanted to applaud Councilor DeMarco for listening to the community and faith leaders in the Jewish community and pivoting a little bit. I think this brought up a very important conversation about the flag policy, as my colleagues have brought up. I think that we will take that up as needed. I don't think it means that our policy is awful. I think it needs to be updated. There are things that we didn't anticipate. And I think it also brings up a couple issues of the role of the council in the community, what our role is. We can provide support, we can provide funding for things sometimes. There's just different things that the council can do, the CDICR can do, Cultural Center can do, the library can do. And it's important to remember that the council is not the entirety of the support that the town can offer our community. And I just want to say that I do support the Jewish community, and again, I applaud Councilor DeMarco for changing from a flag proclamation to something that is more universally accepted.
Councilor Yellow?
Thank you. And thanks to Rob and John for really leading the discussion from the last meeting to this meeting. I think has been important. It has also proven to generate a lot of terrific ideas and energy from the community, so thank all of you for that as well. Let me give you the position I come from. And I try to look at this through a personal lens. I have family members who are Jewish. I have family members who have been deeply, directly affected by the war in Israel. I also have a ton of Palestinian and Lebanese friends from my days of work, continue to be good friends. I have some of their children here in the United States attending school, high school as well as university and as young professionals. My closest Jewish relative lives in Fair. She lives in New England. The Palestinian and Lebanese kids live in Fair. In this country, it's not right. I think, as Marcy said earlier, I believe the right approach for Winthrop is the hate has no home here. For everybody, no matter who. I do worry that the Jewish community has been under incredible onslaught. There's no doubt about it. But so have a lot of other people around the world. There's too much hate out there, and I think, I understand the direction you're trying to go to. I applaud your withdrawal of flying a foreign flag, which I think we should never do. I voted against the Italians, and my buddies.
I still didn't get that one, yeah.
Popular with me on that. But I will say this, any proclamation we make, first of all, should include everybody. And second of all, we shouldn't mistake a proclamation for doing the hard work that Hannah just described. We've got to get out there and support the CDICR in terms of programs. We've got to make sure things like the Jewish Museum of the history of the Jewish people in Winthrop gets our support and push. And in every other dimension, whether it's Breaking Bread, John DeRoss has talked about programs out of Melrose that just seem wonderful. I know the faith-based community has a lot of events. We need to make sure that they are embraced, they're supported, they're well-publicized. And that's a lot of hard work. And we've got to figure out as a council how to do the people's business, but also to make sure the culture of this town is one that is loving and accepting of everybody. So I think your proclamation is very good-hearted. I think it's too narrow from my perspective, and I would not support it.
Council Flockhart, anything further?
Well, I understand where Rob is coming from. I also have, my grandchildren are Jewish, and so I'm very aware of the prejudice. I have a granddaughter who's way away from the family this year for the first time, and it is scary. But I also, as Joe said, I have a lot of Palestinian friends. When I lived in North Africa, I was dealing with Palestinian refugees frequently. So I'm very aware of the pain of the Palestinian people. But I'm also seeing prejudice against the Muslim people and prejudice against Chinese and Japanese Americans here. So there's a lot of hate going around. And I think we need to recognize everybody in our community and all the problems.
Vice President Joe?
Sure. Thank you, Council President. Yeah, I think like the other 8 of us, we thought long and hard about this agenda topic, and as we do every agenda topic, right? You know, yeah, this is particularly difficult. I don't think anybody can disagree with that, and I don't think I'm going to say anything profound here, and I'm definitely not going to be able to top what my colleagues have said and what members of the public have said tonight. And I think, to echo someone's point, I think one of the good things to come out of this was whenever you are kind of like lacking hope, you hear from, it's really nice to just hear from some members of the community that aren't here every week, right? And the folks that are here every week, I also like to hear from you all. But hearing from some different folks and speaking so eloquently, I mean, it's impressive. This is not an easy topic. I will say, you know, I think when the flag policy was written and voted on, one thing we said was that a flag doesn't really solve every issue, and I think we recognize that, and that there are other ways to celebrate different cultures that might not necessarily involve a flag. Looking back on precedent of this council, we have not flown a flag or made a proclamation of any type for any national or international crisis. That's just not something that we've done before. In fact, when councilors were attempting to get a roll call vote on a national or an international crisis, they were told that they could make a statement at the start of a meeting, a personal statement. That's sort of the precedent that this body has set. The agenda item today says flag proclamation, In the past, we were not allowed to amend proclamations. That's another precedent that this council has set. I think there was some debate around the Italian flag proclamation, and there were motions to amend it, and that I think we set the precedent that we weren't going to hear that. So with those two pieces of information, I'm not sure, what the direction we'd like to go in tonight is. It sounds like there's maybe a shift, and it sounds like that maybe some other councilors would like to see this widened a little bit, especially after hearing the public comment. I don't think there's a question of this council's unwavering support for this community. Not a question about that. So I just think from a procedural perspective, maybe this is something that we want to think about.
Thank you.
Sorry,
So we'll
Jim.
set-
Sorry,
No,
sorry,
no,
Jim.
no, no. I mean, there were a lot of comments made. I'm trying to digest all of them. Vice President Ruggiero made some very good points. Councilor Honan made some really good points. I mean, everyone had something that added to it. I don't find it difficult to say I support the Jewish community. I think that's simple for me to do. I mean, I also, absolutely 100% do. And I support, I'm elected to support everyone, and that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, I'm trying to make our community as whole as possible, trying to help. I'm not making it what I mean, but I think the council as a whole wants this community to be united, right? We want to care about everyone. We want to be able to say we support the Jewish community and we support every other community, right? But I don't have a problem saying that. I think that's an easy thing. I think this has brought out, which I think Council Honan mentioned about certain flaws, and nothing is perfect, and I think this is put a magnifying glass on that. Vice President Ruggiero just made a really good point about amendments on proclamations. You cannot make an amendment on the proclamations, and I had told that to Councilor DeMarco earlier. I don't know if he made an amendment or if he just changed the proclamation, but, this has gone awry. I think all the intentions have, I applaud Councilor DeMarco for standing up and taking a stand and doing something that he felt passionate about. And I think it's brought out a lot of flaws, and we all have flaws, right? But I do, and I don't know if it was Councilor Munson, Councilor Honan said something about the flag policy, Councilor Fusillo also said something, and not tonight, not now, but I do believe that there should be a moratorium and come up with a better policy, let's say. It's not that, again, even a better policy is gonna be flawed, but, who could project some of this stuff that's gone on in this world over the last couple of months? It's just incredible. You can't, nobody made this policy thinking, okay, this is what's gonna happen, and we're gonna have it. It's just, the inhumanity that's out there in this world right now is just incredibly sad. We are so incredibly fortunate to live in this country, I believe. And I love this country with all my heart and soul, and would always love to fly the American flag. But this has not turned into a flag situation. So I am going to, put the ball back in Councilor DeMarco's hands. Councilor DeMarco had on the agenda, I allowed it to go on the agenda, a proclamation, which he altered. I don't think, I can't speak for anyone. I support the Jewish community. I support all ethnic communities. And I don't know how you want to present this, if you want to go to a vote, if you want to take a roll call vote. What would you like to do?
I would like to take a roll call vote for our support of the Jewish community. I don't think, and I understand where you're coming from, I tried my hardest to make this focus strictly on the hurt and pain that our Jewish community within Winthrop was feeling. And I wanted to uplift them because, as everybody's seen the statistics, hate against Jews in the United States is up 400% right now. So, when people said Black Lives Matter, you know what I mean? It was to relate to a specific issue. And some people said all lives matter, which is true. But the reason we were saying Black Lives Matter was because we were keying in on a specific issue. Right now, what I'm hearing is all lives matter, when I'm trying to uplift the Jewish community specifically. There is nothing wrong with us taking a vote to say, we support our Jewish community, we are there for you, we love you, and we have your back. And that's what I want to take a vote on.
Okay, so in this situation, this has not become a proclamation, this has become a motion. So is there a second for discussion? There's a second for discussion. So now this is a motion. Now this can be amended, this can be altered. Is there any discussion on the motion? Vice President Ruggiero.
So what is the
real
motion?
motion?
Because now there's nothing.
This is
in
the
the
first
writing.
time it's
Yeah,
coming to a
okay,
committee,
so-
yes.
Right, so, I don't, like, are we just gonna vote on a verbal motion of support for the Jewish community?
Yes
What is
or
the
no?
motion?
I mean, there's a motion on the table to vote, that the council take a vote on supporting the Jewish community, showing support for the
Period.
Jewish community, right. There's a second for discussion. This is now a new motion that's come before the council, was not on the agenda. The council, to lay out the options, the council can propose an amendment, alteration. They can use their council privilege to get a better grip on this whole situation and maybe come up with a different motion for the following council meeting. It's a new motion coming to the council for the very first time. Councilor, what's your name again? Belcher.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, while we're in these conversations about procedure and policy, I don't want it to detract from the support that I think I've heard from all my colleagues here for the Jewish community. And I understand the desire to support everyone in the community, but there's also a timeliness to this as we come into the holiday season and with anti-Semitism on the rise. So there is a timely component to this, although I do see the point to support everyone equally. But again, to the Jewish community, I don't want to make the procedural conversation seem to diminish the point of what we're trying to do here.
Councilor Flockhart?
I agree with what Counselor Belcher is saying. However, I think that this proclamation has come up at this time because of what's happening in Palestine and Israel. And therefore, if we support the Jewish community at this time, I think we need to also support the Palestinian community or the Muslim community.
That's right.
Are you making an amendment? Are you?
Yes, I would like to
What
make
would
an
you-
amendment. I have to come up with the wording here. Let's see. Just, okay. That we support the Jewish community and the Palestinian community in the pain that they're going through and the hope that they can settle this issue in some peaceable way that will have long-term peaceable effects, let's say, and stop the prejudice.
Okay.
Too bad, huh?
Well,
Terrible.
I don't know if you can make a motion that we're gonna find peace, but I think we can make you could make an amendment to support, different people, but I don't think you should make a motion that we're gonna find peace in a couple of
Okay,
weeks.
take that part out.
So you wanna make an
I can't even
amendment
remember what I
to
said now.
add, you wanna make an amendment to show support for the,
That we have to support both sides
and
of
Palestinian
this
people.
conflagration.
Okay, there's an amendment been made. Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Second by Councilor Aiello. Discussion on the amendment. So now there's an amendment on the floor. There's an amendment on the floor to alter Councilor DeMarco's motion to show our verbal support for the Jewish people to include, show verbal support of the Jewish and Palestinian people. Is that correct? All right, it's been made and seconded. Is there a discussion on the amendment? Councilor Belcher.
Thank you. This is kind of a point of procedure, but if we were to use council privilege, could we take the time to
Yes.
write something up?
Yes.
Like
You
a-
can use council privilege to have a chance to write something for the next meeting. You can't use council privilege to write it now.
No, right. Just out of respect for both communities and getting this right, I'd like to use council privilege.
Thank you.
All right, Councilor Belcher has the privilege where something is coming before us for the first time to postpone this motion. So as of now, there is Councilor DeMarco's motion will stay on the table, and the amendment will stay on the table. The amendment has not been voted on, so as of, and it will be on the agenda, so it's not going away. So this will be on the agenda for the December 19th meeting. And as of now, Councilor DeMarco's motion holds proxy, and there's a motion, there's an amendment on the table. Councilor Belcher has used her prerogative, her council privilege to postpone it. That ends discussion and debate. It will be postponed until the meeting of the 19th. Public comment? Mr. Dow.
Thank you. Well, Merry Christmas. And Happy Holidays. I do want to talk about the executive session meeting that was held before this meeting tonight. And from what I understand, because of some interest in how the procedures of bringing forth a executive session, that this time, it was determined that you were going to go into executive session to discuss the old DPW building. I wasn't watching television, but someone that was watching texted me that information. Is that correct?
Yes, we went into executive session to, because it would, potentially discussions would have a detrimental effect on the town's negotiating process, and we specified the piece of property that we were discussing.
What piece of property is that?
You just said that, the old
What did you
DPW
say
building.
that?
The old DPW building at, I think
Thank you.
it's
Thank you very much.
245 rear Winthrop Street.
I'm very concerned about that, and I'm concerned about the procedure that's being used to go into executive session without doing a roll call and then vote to go into.
We did do that.
Mr. Dodd, we have done, no, excuse me, I have to answer that, no. We have gone into and it's my prerogative to answer the question.
It's my comment, Jim. This
You
is
can
not a
either let me answer the
discussion.
question, or you could sit down. I'm sorry, but I can't let you say something that's factually
You
untrue.
can put it on the agenda for next week.
No, I can't.
Why not?
You could sit down then. Next public comment, please. Marcy.
Well, this has been a long meeting.
I got something else to say, not concerning this matter.
I'm sorry, I was trying to answer a question that you said that was a false statement, and you chose not to listen to my answer, so we're moving on. That's it, discussion over.
Well, I think your
I
answer is
apologize.
erroneous.
Okay, thank you. Marcy?
Marcy, Hamilton, Precinct 6. This has been a long meeting. I thank you all for your patience, for your point of views, for your procedural knowledge that I'm trying to gain through all of these meetings, attending these meetings. I wish you all a nice holiday. I thank you for your time, your effort, your hearts, and the work that you do. That's all I want to say. Thank you so much. It's been a long meeting, and I know that we can make one step in front of the other. Will make a better day for all our community.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Any other public comments? Anyone on Zoom?
Kathleen, can you unmute, please?
Hey, Denise, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you so much, sorry. I've got a lot to say, but I'm gonna just be really brief, which is not in my normal way. The discussion that we have had, or the council has had, on the flag policy over the last 45 minutes, and the questions and concerns that the council this Winthrop community. I'm ashamed of this town council,
This is too much.
and I hope you can look and find some conscience, because you've lost it. You've lost it.
Thank you, Kathleen. Any other?
Vasily Melios, can you unmute, Vasily?
Hey guys, so I have two things. I just, would like to know, I know that the, planning board has been, started their research or their, speaking to an outside company regarding the MBTA community housing, which, based off of Winthrop's action plan, we're required to provide 882 units. I had reached out to, oh my goodness, the woman in town hall who is looking into this, and my biggest concern was, does this have to be 882 new units, or can it be existing and a mixture of new? So I just would like to know, is the planning board going to be updating the town with this information? Because if we need to give up certain properties to meet this quota, I'm very concerned as how dense we are, and we shouldn't be giving up prime real estate, as the action plan says, for the center business district as location and waterfront property. So that's just something I'd like to kind of get out there, because I feel like this is kind of just going through the shadows. And then my other point is, and I agree with several people about this flag policy, you guys made the decision to create a flag policy. And like Mr. Munson said tonight, we either are gonna fly them all, or we're not flying any. But that should have been a decision that was made when the policy went into place. There are now 4 proclamations that have been made. And so, given the unfortunate series of events that have happened in the world, if, let's just say, September 1st, Todd Sacco came to the council and said, hey, I would like a proclamation for the Israeli flag to be flown, would the council have said yes, based off of that proclamation? Unfortunately, now we are in a world catastrophe, but my feeling is, you guys have created this flag policy, then we should be celebrating and commemorating all of our cultures within our community to bring us all together. And I understand now we're all saying, oh, we don't need flags to fly and to show our appreciation for each other, but we actually do, because you know what? I fly the Greek flag in my yard. And every day I see that, it reminds me of my grandparents who immigrated here and brought their families here to our town of Winthrop. And you know how amazing it would be to see it done at the cultural center? It would bring the Greek American community to Winthrop closer, but it also would show appreciation to our other communities around us. So it's either we fly them all or remove the policy completely. There should be no discussions. We should not be bringing federal issues or concerns involved. It's fly the American flag, POW, and the Massachusetts state flag, or even the flag of Winthrop. Todd is right. Todd was right. We opened a can of worms with this. And Kathleen made a great point. You guys made the decision on this without looking further down the line. And I really do think that the town council needs to come back to the next meeting and suspend this flag policy until you guys have it 100% ready to go and be ready for the concerns that the community will have again. Thank you.
Thank you. Town manager, just to address the 882 units and the time frame that you discussed at your town manager's report about December of 2024, and the fact that we're looking at potential locations, not necessarily 880 units in a year.
Correct, and it's only zoned for, you don't have to construct them, you just have to zone for that, that's the requirement. And we'll be, like I said, in the start of the new year, we'll be in with an update on where we are and, to answer all those questions, so.
Thank you.
Diana Beans? You unmute Diana, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, thank you, Diana Vian, Precinct 2. My comment is with respect to today's, or any motion for executive session, which is to reiterate an exception to state and local open meeting laws. So on real property discussions, our town is 1.6 square miles. Any major development initiative is a matter of public concern. So unless there's a sincere altruistic interest by the council to get us the best deal possible on an active legal sale, which is currently being negotiated, which by the way should also be public knowledge, and discussing in public would hurt our negotiating position, that discussion should be in public. So say hypothetically, the executive session today has something to do with relocating our current Wadsworth tenants in an effort to bring back the recently failed proposal for locating our new fire station in Metcalf Square. Say that was the case. I assume not, but say it was. Obviously, that would be a matter of public concern, whether or not there was an active negotiation in progress. So I thank Council President Lettieri for mentioning the specific property in your opening remarks, but we're left wondering why was discussing this in public potentially a harm to the town's negotiating position. Excluding the public from discussions like this, the outcome of which would most certainly impact the financial and aesthetic integrity of our town, harms us in many, many ways. Like, I mean, in your case, time and energy wasted on unendorsed outcomes, and in my opinion, more importantly, the public's trust in our government. This was obviously a recurring theme in our recent election, and the decisions we made reflect our values and prioritization of transparency in government. So open meeting laws exist for a reason, and I encourage that we do everything possible to limit the use of this exception, this executive session exception to open meeting laws. Thank you.
Okay, and again, just for clarification, we've had hundreds of executive session meetings over the past number of years. Every one of them goes before our attorney, or town attorney, or legal counsel to get a clarification on it. Every one of them are voted on in a public session to go into before the executive session. If anything involves any real property of the town and anything in any terms of sale or potential sale or anything else, it would have to be voted in a public session by the town council. We had legal opinion on this executive session this evening. And I did name the location, which in many times in the past we have not done, not illegally, but have not done, but trying to be as transparent as possible. But I appreciate your concern, or your thoughts, and again, we did vote in open session, and every vote to go in or out of executive session is a roll call vote. Any executive session minutes are available to the public when the discussion of the executive session comes to a finality. Thank you for your comments, Diana.
Great. Well, when you hear that vote, look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, Todd Sacco. Can you unmute, Todd?
3 minutes, please.
The room is muted.
Yep.
He can't hear us.
Well, first I want to thank you all. I'm in Denver for business right now, and I was looking for something to do, and this was probably the most entertaining hour or so that I've spent. I'll add to that this again, we are spending so much time on this, as was foreseen in the numerous conversations, or whatever you want to call them, I had with Mr. Ruggiero, via email and or in meetings, etc.
Please don't use, please don't use any individual names, just refer to the council as the town council.
Well, but the councilors made the comments. What are you talking about? She made the comment just now.
Let's move to close the meeting, Jim.
Can I make a public statement?
Public comment.
Or comment?
Yes, we're in public comment.
I am Rabbi Benjamin Flax. I'm the rabbi of Temple Tifereth Israel. I live in Beachmont. I do recognize that I am not I'm not represented on this council, but as the religious leader of the
And just
community.
to, and I apologize, just to make sure we follow the rules, somebody
Motion to
make a
suspend
motion
the
to
rules.
suspend the
Motion to
rules to
suspend,
let.
yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to
Thank
suspend,
you.
seconded.
I just want to make clear that it is situations like that that have made what Mr. DeMarco has brought up tonight and the necessity to draw this attention and to make this statement that is unacceptable dialogue, and that the violence and vitriol that has been spewed continually, not just since October 7th, but continually. We liked the public statements people made of their experiences. What about the student who got harassed in Harvard Square in 2016, getting jumped, getting a beer after school? That was me. Or the Jew who was on the train and gets yelled at about the protocols of the Elders of Zion in 2017. That was me. This is not an issue that we are saying is out there. What Mr. DeMarco is bringing up are issues that are facing us now, and having outbreaks like that. I did not want to speak tonight, recognizing the order of how this goes, but hearing that is the reason why Mr. DeMarco needed to bring this up and why it needs to be a limited scope. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
I have a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councilor Aiello, second by Councilor Flockhart. Any discussion on the motion?
I
Seeing
don't-
none-
I don't, it can be over. It can be over.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.